Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for February the 21st. Today, we are reading together the very well-known Psalm 23. The 23rd Psalm is on the schedule for today. It is the Shepherd's Psalm. It is described in my Bible as the Good Shepherd Psalm, a Psalm of David. And this is, I believe, a royal psalm in some ways, because this is how Yahweh shepherds his king. But of course, it is also very much a messianic psalm, helping us to look ahead to Jesus. I'm not going to give the most in-depth of explanations today, because I want to actually read through this psalm together with you on Sunday and have a more in-depth study of this psalm on Sunday. But that doesn't mean we cannot have some good thoughts, hopefully, for our read today. So let me go and get the text up on the screen, and we'll read along together here the 23rd Psalm together. Psalm number 23. Of course, reading from the Christian Standard Bible, the language is not going to be your typical traditional language of, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It doesn't say that. It gets more toward the real point of the meaning of that line, I shall not want. So just keep that in mind, that the language that is used here in the CSB is not your traditional great poetic type of language, but it does certainly help us to understand the intended meaning, I believe, of what this psalm is trying to get across to us, which in and of itself is extremely powerful and impactful for us as we consider how Yahweh, specifically Jesus, again, I'm not going to get into it too much today, but how Jesus fulfills the reality of this psalm for each and every one of us in our lives as we live for him. But here, Psalm 23 and verse number 1, Yahweh, or the Lord, is my shepherd. I have what I need. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He renews my life. He leads me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even when I go through the darkest valley, I fear no danger, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh as long as I live. Psalm number 23. Of course, we've heard this psalm read who knows how many times in a church setting, but maybe even in a funeral type of setting, maybe in other settings we've heard this psalm read in our hearing. Maybe we even have a picture or a painting of some sort in our house which has the beautiful words of this psalm on it. I appreciate what this one resource says that I have been using in my preparation for our readings this year. It comes from a book called The Psalms, Jesus' Prayer Book by Douglas D. Webster. It says on the forefront, or at the very beginning of this psalm, something we would probably agree with, especially as we read together from the probably more traditional readings, the older translations, where he says that the lyrical beauty of the most popular psalm in the Psalter is beyond debate. We love the imagery and the cadence of the shepherd's psalm. In times of grief and sorrow, its soulful rhythm brings comfort and assurance. Certainly, we love this psalm and appreciate so much the beauty of it, and like the book states, the imagery of what this psalm represents. So what does this psalm represent? Well, it represents David's own lived experience as a shepherd. Think about every single thing that is described here in these psalms, specifically, or in the psalm specifically, verses 1 through 4, is something that David would have experienced himself as the shepherd of his sheep. We were told that he was, whenever Samuel went to his father's house in order to find the next king of Israel, that he looked through all his sons and none of them fit the mold, but here was the little shepherd boy in the field, at least the way it's described to us. He might have been a little older than that, who knows. But there's the shepherd in the field tending for his sheep. And we read later on, whenever he's ready to fight the giant Goliath, and he says that Yahweh was with me as I fought against the bear and fought against the lion, and he's going to be with me as I fight against this uncircumcised Philistine as well. Jesus, or excuse me, well, little Freudian slip there. Yes, Jesus, David is the shepherd. David is the shepherd. He knows about that. So he's able to look into his relationship with Yahweh and recognize that Yahweh is his shepherd, the one who has cared for him, the one who leaves him lacking nothing, the one that gives him security and leadership and provision. I like the way one writer talks about this psalm. He says that this provides such provision, or this speaks of God's provision, protection, and abiding presence with David. Again, a shepherd's able to recognize other shepherds, and he's able to recognize how Yahweh shepherded him. But Yahweh here is also described in verses 5 and 6 as a gracious host. You prepare a table for me, or you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Here is Yahweh providing, in some sense, hospitality for David, caring for him, even in the presence of his enemies. Think about all the different enemies that David faced within his life, and how Yahweh had shepherded him through those situations. Certainly, David is able to write from a very experiential viewpoint this psalm. Verse number 6 is probably my favorite psalm, my favorite verse in this whole psalm. I don't know if we're allowed to have favorites whenever it comes to the Bible, but I'll just tell you, verse 6, Psalm 23:6 is probably my favorite verse in this psalm. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh as long as I live. Only goodness and faithful love. Faithful love is that word we've talked about a number of times, hesed. Yahweh's faithful love, his loyal love, his this just idea of the covenant that Yahweh has with David. David is recognizing here, and he's recognizing how Yahweh's goodness and faithful love, his hesed, has pursued him, not just followed him. But the idea here is a pursuit. I'm going to unpack that more on Sunday. And actually, for anybody who might be reading this after the fact, that I'll go after I present this lesson with more meat to it on Sunday. I will link to that lesson in the comments or in the description here on this video. So if you are watching this after February the 25th, 2024, you can go down to the comments or go down to the description. You can see the longer video that I'll have for this psalm, because there's just so much. There's so much that I can talk about from this psalm that I would love to talk about, but this is not the proper context for that. So we'll save that for Sunday. But please, I invite you to tune in for that on Sunday, or come back later on and watch that lesson where I can present some more detail about this text I think is so good. But again, it is the pursuing that God has of David, and the same pursuing that God has of us, specifically the way he does such through Jesus. And that's really the main point of the psalm, isn't it? For us, this is a messianic psalm. It is a royal psalm. Yes, it is how Yahweh provides for his king, but it's also a messianic psalm. And so I'll encourage you just to think about this psalm from the perspective of Jesus. How does Jesus fulfill this psalm in our lives? How is Jesus our good shepherd? I invite you to think about that today and for the next few days, and we will unpack that idea more together on Sunday. Really excited for that lesson coming up on Sunday. If you have any other questions or comments about this psalm, though, again, I know there's so much that is left unsaid about this psalm, but I encourage you just to continue to meditate upon it, meditate upon God's provision, protection, and abiding presence that is described for us in the psalm. And then I hope that you'll be excited to study more about this on Sunday. But if you do have any other questions or comments, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I appreciate you taking some time to reading along with me today on this Good Wednesday about the Good Shepherd here in Psalm 23. And we're looking forward to being with everybody tonight for our Bible study at 7. We're going to continue our response to some questions that have been asked about Israel and eschatology. Specifically tonight, we're going to be thinking about the end of Joshua and what is stated there about God fulfilling the promises he had made to Israel, if that has any impact on modern ideas of Israel, and if it does have anything to do with the current circumstances that are taking place with the conflicts in the Middle East involving the nation of Israel. Looking forward to that study, and looking forward again to reading with you today, or I'm thankful to read with you today, and looking forward to our study tonight, looking forward to our continued read on Friday as we look together at Psalm number 24, the King of Glory, another very powerful powerful and rich psalm. Looking forward to reading that with you then. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Wednesday. Let me, since I actually remember this time, let me wish tomorrow a very happy birthday to Becky Clark. I do believe her birthday is tomorrow, February 22nd. So happy birthday to you, Becky. Again, thanks for tuning in today. Looking forward to seeing everyone in person tonight, and looking forward to being with everyone on Friday as we read together from Psalm 24. Take care. God bless.